Frank Isola does NBA XM Radio, Isola Show, PTI, writer for The Athletic, big Knickerbocker and Nets writer. Frank, how you doing, brother?
Look at Ryan hosting a show. Not that easy, right? A lot of things you got to do. A little bit different than being an analyst, isn't it?
You know what, Frank? You tell me I can't do it. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna figure it out, brother. That's the story of my career.
A good job. I'm just saying, it's a little bit different though. But now you're the point guard. You're not just the guy coming on a pick and roll getting the ball. You got to set everybody up.
Absolutely, my man. Help me out here, man. What's going on? I'm gonna call them your Knicks right now. What should they do? Go after KD, go heavy in free agency, wait, sit back and chill, take the Lakers route? What's going on in New York?
It's an interesting dilemma for them because if they can get Kevin Durant, the Knicks over the years have gotten burned by the contracts of Antonio McDyess, injured. Allen Houston signed a big contract. He had a knee issue. And then, of course, most recently, Amari Stoudemire. And, if you do sign Kevin Durant, we know that he's not going to play next season. He's going to be recovering from that surgery. So by the time he's ready to play an NBA game, he'll be 16 months out from the last time he played. He'll be 32. I'm not saying he can't come back and play at a high level, but if you're the Knicks, you got this young roster. Is that really the way you want to go? Ryan, I think if they can get him, they're definitely going to do it. But for a team like the Knicks, I think it's a little bit of a risk right now to take that chance.
If you're Kevin Durant, is it a smart choice to go there? If Kyrie Irving goes to Brooklyn and he's the lone Knick, would that make sense at all for KD?
I don't think it does. I mean, first of all, I think him going back to the Warriors makes a ton of sense because they can pay him the most. The fans there have a different level of appreciation and respect for him after what happened in the NBA Finals. And he could, like I said, he can make the most money. And when you come back, Ryan, he's still going to have Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson as teammates. But I think the biggest thing, and you would know better because you played, I mean, if I'm Kevin Durant, you also have to factor in, am I with the right people to help me get back to the level I was at before the injury, just in terms of the medical staff and the physios and things like that? Because if you think about what happened with Kawhi Leonard in Toronto, the gentleman, Alex McKechnie, the physio that they have up there with the Raptors, he did a really good job with Kawhi Leonard. And Kawhi, yes, he did miss 22 games during the regular season. He played in every playoff game, and he was the best player this postseason. So I think a big part of where Kevin Durant goes, yes, teammates should factor into it. Money is going to factor into it. But he should also be looking out for, what staff, medical staff, trainers, physios is the best for me to get back to, being an all-star caliber player.
Frank, help me out here with this Brooklyn situation because they've come into play with Kyrie Irving looking to be the favorites to land there. Then D'Angelo Russell's flirting somewhere around there. Is he staying? Is he going? They're going to part ways with the guy they built up to be an all-star. And Kevin Durant possibly going there. So what's the latest there? Break that down for me.
Well, Ryan, if you look at every move that the Nets have made, it seems like it's setting up for both Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. And from everything that we hear, and now the reports have come out about the two of them have met twice. When the two of them, I mean Kyrie and Kevin Durant. Once out in the Bay Area when before the Achilles injury, and then in New York since the Achilles injury. I had heard that they were actually going to go on vacation. They were going to get away together at some point after the season. That all changed once Kevin Durant ruptured his Achilles. But the Nets appear to be in a pretty good position. And I was just talking about the rehab for Kevin Durant. The surgeon that he used for the Achilles tendon is Dr. Martin O'Malley here in New York, and he is the Nets team doctor. So he does have a connection there. And Kyrie, it sounds like Kyrie would prefer to play in New York. So that's the thing. Do you see the two of them splitting up? Doesn't it seem to make sense that they would probably end up together? I guess they could split up, but at this point it just doesn't seem to make sense that both would come to New York, but both would play for different teams.
No, I completely agree. And Brian Windhorst reported that they were open to a sign-and-trade scenario with Kevin Durant. We're talking about the Warriors and possibly Brooklyn. But when I hear sign-and-trade, I think Clippers, I think Brooklyn. How do you think that scenario could play out? Because if you look at this Golden State roster, they're going to be needing fresh bodies too. Klay Thompson's going to be out. KD, whether he stays or goes, he won't be playing. So what do you make of that?
If I'm Golden State and I can do a sign and trade, I would definitely do that. I want to bring him back, but if I can't, and then get something for him, absolutely. I think the big thing with the Warriors next year. So if you're Steve Kerr, Ryan, what do you do with Draymond Green and Steph Curry? Let's assume they're both going to be healthy at the start of the season. Are you going to run those guys into the ground? I understand you have a new building, but wouldn't you be thinking? I'm thinking like between 50 and 65 games until at least one of these guys come back, because what would be the point of running them into the ground, hoping you get the 8th seed, but really not having a legitimate chance to win a championship? So I think next season for the Warriors, every guy in that roster, but especially Curry and Draymond Green, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
July 1st, who's the first domino to fall?
I would think Kyrie. Because the people up in Boston, they think that he's gone. So it's that seems to be the worst kept secret. So why not just get it done early? And I will say this, a little secret about the media, especially those of us who have to write over this time. We love when the guys get things done right away. The greatest news that I heard last year was when Rich Paul sent out that statement at about 9 o'clock at night on July 1st that said LeBron James has decided to join the Lakers. That you knew it was going to be a quick free agency. The years that these guys have had meetings and they go on and on, it's like the worst thing. When Tracy McGrady was a free agent and he went to Orlando, back then you couldn't announce the signing until July 30.
Yep.
July 31st,
Yep.
I think it was. So that was a long time waiting for everything to fall into place.
Frank, what about the Lakers? They're in a situation they need a little bit of help from New Orleans. Possibly AD gives back $4 million. And we talk about one of those big dominoes falling, and you're going to have to talk a guy into taking less, if not significantly less amount of money. So do you go for the superstar? Do you go for the role player? What you got?
Well, my thing is, I know that, they're trying to get another max slot. But to me, the two legitimate max players are Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard. It doesn't look like they're going to get either one of those guys. So why not go for the role players and try to fill out that roster and try to do it the right way? You got a pretty good starting point with LeBron and Anthony Davis. I actually think Davis might give back the money. Number one, he's in Space Jam 2, so maybe somehow they could do a little, backdoor, give him the money back that way. But
is that legal, great? Frank? Can you do that, Frank?
No, when we know that doesn't happen in the NBA. We know that, but I'm sure they could do something. But the other way would be, if I'm him, and if you figure you can make up that money, and I understand it's $4 million, but think about how much good publicity $4 million could get you if you decide to kind of give it back. And think about, all the goodwill. Maybe he thinks like that. Maybe he doesn't. It's his money. He's entitled to it. So I hope Laker fans don't get too upset with Anthony Davis. He says, hey, listen, I want my money. He's got every right to every penny of that, but I'm sure it's something that he's considering.
Frank, what do you think when you hear this? D'Angelo Russell signs with the Lakers.
You know what? It'd be a pretty interesting story after everything that happened with him and Nick Young last year. And I know you were following it. If you look at the way D'Angelo Russell played, he did a really great job on the court. I think he answered a lot of questions about his maturity, both on and off the court. And I'll never forget, they had a game, I believe it was in January, in Houston. They were getting blown out by the Rockets. And Kenny Atkinson put Spencer Dinwiddie in the game, and he had D'Angelo Russell on the bench. And the Nets started making their comeback. And D'Angelo Russell was the biggest cheerleader on the bench. To me, that said a lot about him.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't he was insulted that he wasn't in there, and I should be in there. The way his attitude, I thought that really said a lot about him, and he did a lot this past season to really change the perception of him. And I hope he strikes it rich in free agency as well. He certainly earned it.
Yeah, now, Frank, I know it's a feel-good story. I'm pulling from the kid from day one. I remember covering his draft, but he gets caught with a little substance at the airport. Does that deter you? Is he mature enough? Because the L.A. that was too big for him at the time just got even bigger. Come on, Frank.
Yeah, but also, Ryan, look at it this way. If he goes there, he's going in as the number 3 guy at most, because you're going to have LeBron, Anthony Davis. And there's going to be a ton of pressure now on Anthony Davis because, you're playing in New Orleans, and yes, everyone acknowledged that he was a great player, but he did only make the playoffs a couple of times, only got out of the first round once. So just like LeBron, you go play for the Lakers as a star, you could say it's unfair. It's like playing for the Yankees in New York. You're being judged on championships. So getting to the playoffs, not good enough. Getting to an NBA Finals, okay, now we're talking. But ultimately they're going to say, did you do what Jerry West, Magic Johnson, Kareem, Wilt, Shaq, Kobe, did you do what those guys did? Did you come here and win a championship? And if you don't, I mean, I hate to use the word failure because LeBron James is anything but a failure, but that chapter, it'll be looked at differently if you go to L.A. and you don't win. So in that respect, in terms of D'Angelo Russell, there'll be pressure on him, but all the pressure in the world is going to be on Anthony Davis and still on LeBron.
So, Frank, how much credit does Magic Johnson get if the Lakers win a championship next year? Or is this? Who do we credit here? Is this Clutch Sports? Is this LeBron James? Where do we go?
I don't like the way that Clutch Sports handled it and Rich Paul handled it, but you can't argue with the results. He wanted to get his client to L.A., and it sounds like Anthony Davis wanted to be there. Rich Paul's number one client definitely wanted Anthony Davis there, and Rich Paul took a hit, but ultimately he did his job. He got Anthony Davis to the Lakers. I think that Magic is still going to be involved some way. We were joking around about tampering. Now Magic can kind of like meet up with free agents. He could talk about them in interviews. I still think on the periphery, he's going to be involved. And I think Magic also knows that he's getting a lot of criticism for the way that he handled his exit. So I think to kind of make good with a lot of people, I think he's going to want to be on the side with the Lakers and do anything that they want. And now he can do it in a role where he doesn't catch any grief. And like you said, they got the trade that they wanted. I think New Orleans did a great job with getting back what they got back. But the Lakers wanted Anthony Davis, and when the dust settled, they got Anthony Davis.
Frank, let's switch gears here to the NBA awards. Now, Giannis Antetokounmpo, for those who didn't know, he received the MVP. That is probably the most prestigious award outside of getting a championship for an NBA player. But guess what, Frank? He wasn't my MVP. I love the kid. I love his motor. I know what he does. I'm a James Harden guy. Where do you stand, Frank?
Well, you're not going to be happy with me because I get a vote, and I voted for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I felt, played both ends of the court, and I get it. He plays in the Eastern Conference, but they still did win 60 games. I thought Harden really made a compelling argument for himself over the last few months of the year because there was a time when they were in 14th place, and he actually said, I'm going to win MVP again, and he carried the team. We've talked about LeBron in the past, the way that he's carried the Cleveland Cavaliers. Well, last year, James Harden carried the Rockets. I thought he was great. They went from 14th, they ended up getting home court advantage in the first round. But still, I thought Giannis made a big jump. The fact that the team won 60 games, and like I said, both ends of the court, that's why I voted him. I did vote Harden second, if that makes you feel better.
How about who's got a brighter future? Luka or Trey?
That's a tough one. I love Trae Young, but man, he is small and he's got short arms. That's Luka Doncic, his size, I'd probably pick him. But I do love the way that Trae Young is a fighter. I thought he was a fighter in college, and I thought after everyone was ready to announce that he was a bust of a draft pick, I love the way that he played the second half of the season. So I still think he's going to be a good player. But the size, unfortunately, sometimes concerns me a little bit.
Now, Frank, yesterday we had a intriguing free agent kind of talk. I don't know. I guess player to player, it's not tampering, but our sixth man of the year, Lou Williams, and Pascal Siakam, the NBA's most improved, they both put some pitches together for Kawhi Leonard to either come to L.A. or to stay in Toronto. You're Kawhi Leonard. What do you do?
I don't think Kawhi Leonard should lose either way. If that story's true about Lou Williams having two girlfriends, I might join Lou Williams. Let me tell you something. He gets player of the year every year in my book. Lou Williams. I love him as a player. I will say this. I think Kawhi, the fact that he won in Toronto, if you sign for 2 more years, I think they can get back to at least one more final and win. So maybe he does that, and then he returns home. But I do think this idea of the Knicks or the Nets for Kawhi Leonard, I find it hard to believe he would leave a cold weather city, join his third team in 11 months, and it's not going to be the Clippers. I just find that hard to believe. I think if he leaves, it's the Clippers, but I tend to think he's staying.
What is Kawhi the best player right now? I had a top 5 list. I don't know if you even want me to repeat it out to you. But I have Kawhi as the best player in the NBA right now. Where do you hold Kawhi?
Well, I think the fact that LeBron, 34, and coming off that injury, and Kevin Durant being out of the league, I would say Kawhi as well. It's interesting, though. If you look at their career numbers, I think LeBron is at 27 points a game, which is ridiculous considering how many games he's played. Durant is at 26, and Kawhi's at 17. That's for his career. This year, I think he was at about 26 points per game. But the guy plays both ends of the court, and it's funny, too. All you ever heard, now when people say, well, I don't know if he could be like Chris Middleton, can he really be good enough? Could you win a championship with him as your second-best player? Didn't we constantly hear that about Kyle Lowry? All of a sudden, Kawhi Leonard shows up, and Kyle Lowry, he's good enough to be your second-best player and win a championship. To me, that's how good Kawhi is. I thought he elevated the confidence level of everybody on the team. He's a two-way player. The guy's a stud. And I tell you this, I didn't realize he had that kind of sense of humor. During the playoffs, he was constantly up at the podium after games, off days during practice. I thought the guy has a sneaky sense of humor. He's a lot smarter, I think, than people gave him credit for, because I think he's really quiet. So sometimes people mistake that for him being a little naive. He's as sharp as a knife, that guy.
Frank, you're amazing as always, brother. This is Ryan Hollins still here on the – wait, hold on.
Yeah, Frank, real quick. Rich wanted to say thank you for the glowing praise on PTI yesterday on his 50th birthday, calling him the King of Staten Island. Wanted me to ask you, who else was in the running for King of Staten Island?
A couple of people. Paul Castellano.
Okay.
Who,
Rest in peace.
Of course, got shot.
Right.
Got shot down outside Spark Steakhouse. We don't want to get into that, especially if you're Italian. You don't want to talk about that. Tony Reale. Tony Reale's also a Staten Island guy.
Okay.
So and Tony Reale is technically my boss. So I hope Rich realizes that I gave him king status over the guy who's technically my boss.
That's
so he really should appreciate.
High praise, Frank.
And I thought, Rich, I got to be honest with you, I thought he looks good for 42 years old. I didn't know he was 50. God bless him.
All right.
I appreciate it, Frank. Good stuff, brother, as always.
All right, guys, keep up the good work, and send my best to Rich.
We'll
Take care.
See you, bud.
Absolutely.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live, or download the Rich Eisen Show app.